Hey, we're live. Welcome to Real Guitar Success Live. Really glad to have you here. Ami Fields joining me, and Felix in the background, hiding out. Yeah. Oh, we forgot to give him a microphone.
Oh, we forgot Felix's mic.
Oh, well, you're going to have to yell, Felix. Anyway, today I have training for you, as usual, and then we'll go on to answer all your questions about learning and playing guitar. If you submitted questions live, you'll get first shot. I'm sorry, if you submitted questions ahead of time, but you can submit questions anytime live. Now, it's helpful if you leave a question to go ahead and start off with a question mark or something, just so we can see right away it's a question. Yeah. But other than that, we're going to save the questions for the end, unless it's pertinent right away. At the end of our question and answer session, we'll go ahead and give away an Amazon gift card.
Yeah.
$50 gift card. And this is for people who have, or are members of Real Guitar Success and have completed the monthly practice sessions. So we have a hat, and I look forward to seeing who has completed the monthly practice session.
Yeah. Today,
our topic is how to find the right strum pattern to a song. And that's how to find the right strumming pattern? Is that what you say?
Yeah, that sounds good.
On the surface, when I first started playing guitar, I remember thinking that wasn't a big issue. But I realized as time goes on, when you're listening to a song, it's not that simple. For one reason, when you're listening to a song on a record, it may not be a song that was created on the guitar. So there's no clear strumming pattern on the guitar. Especially if it's a band, the actual rhythm is created by a combination of different instruments, the bass, the drums. There might be a guitar in there, but it's only playing a part of the rhythm. And certainly if there's a keyboard, a piano, it's totally different than the guitar. And then finally, even if it is a guitar song, let's say like a Cat Stevens song, you might have a rhythm that is for one part of the song, and he changes up constantly throughout the song.
Right.
So there might be one major rhythm that's going through the song, but he'll do a lot of variations on it. So it's not that simple to just say that's the groove for that song. I wanted to start out. Ami was telling me earlier today that she has a way of teaching her students on the ukulele when they ask her what should I use as a strum pattern. I want to turn it over to Ami and let her tell you her system for teaching students how to develop a strum pattern.
Yeah, well, it's different for every song. And I was going to say one of the things is, when I'm teaching my students, I have a lot of beginner uke students, and they're kind of learning how to do some finger picking stuff in terms of just plucking melodies, but then they're also learning how to strum chords. And, they want the song to sound and feel like what they're hearing on the radio. So the strum is extremely important in that, because if you're taking a lot of pop songs have really common chord progressions, and if you're not doing a strum that lends itself to the song or the one that's in the song, you're not going to feel like you're really playing the song. So that's kind of background on why a lot of my students like to learn this. So we always start by just listening to the tune. You can learn so much by listening, and once you start listening to it, and you want to listen for where the emphasis is being put. So on a lot of songs, it's on beats 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I make my students clap along to it, because sometimes it's not on 2 and 4, and you want to be able to identify that. After that, we'll take just a little section of the song, let's say the chorus, for example, and you're going to listen to the instruments in the background, the one that you're trying to emulate, the guitar or whatever. For the uke, we typically kind of follow what the guitar is doing. And you listen to it, and you see if you can sing the rhythmic figure back. So if they're going junga, junga, jung, jung, junga, junga, jung, jung, you want to be able to sing that rhythm. And then we go normally a step further. Of course, this is with me, and I'm teaching them how to read rhythm and things like that. Then we find how the beats are what's called subdivided. So we're going 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and singing the rhythm that you're hearing along with that to find where exactly are you going to be moving your arm? When are you actually strumming down? And then you find the down to up strums. So it's a process. It's definitely not something that I would teach my students in one lesson. So I think my biggest tip when you're trying to learn how to do this, you don't have to jam pack it into 20 minutes or 30 minutes of time. This is something that takes a little while to develop and learn. Yeah. Because you have to have a good understanding of how rhythm works.
That makes sense. I know a lot of students, including myself when I first started out, I didn't have a teacher to kind of guide me through and show me how to figure out the rhythm. So I'm going to add to that.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to say that there isn't just necessarily one strumming pattern that fits that song and that's the right one.
Yeah.
You could have 4 different guitar players play a different strum and it works.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it is subjective, and if it sounds good to you, that might be all that's important. That said, I can divide most songs into what I'll say 3/4 time and 4/4 time.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm talking in the world of pop music. This isn't the only time. And when I say 3/4 time and 4/4 time, for those of you who aren't into music theory or note reading, I'm talking about a pulse. So some songs have like 3 groups of 3 pulses and some have 4. So 3 pulses might be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 4 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I would have a student listen to a song and figure out, tap along and figure out if it's in groups of 3 or in groups of 4. So for an example, here's a song, Happy Birthday. Everybody knows this one. Happy birthday to you. So as I'm strumming, you can hear that this song is 1, 2, happy birthday to you. It's in groups of 3, to you. So that falls into the 3/4.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that 4 part. That's a little more music theory. So pulses of 3 or pulses of 4, or groups of 3 pulses or groups of 4 pulses.
Right.
Now, once you figure that out, you start experimenting with strums in that range. So I would want a student to learn a number of strums that were 3 pulses and a number of strums that were 4 pulses. 4 pulses is going to get the majority. So here's a 4-pulse strum. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I call that a basic down-up strum because it's one of the more basic strums. A 3 version of that would be 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Then try playing the song with maybe the simplest version of that strum. So if you hear 3 pulses, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Once you figure that out, hopefully you have a number of different strums that you can do. You can experiment with a little different subtleties. So for example, on Happy Birthday, I could play it, Happy birthday to you. Happy, or I could play, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, still 3 to you. Or I could play, Happy, let me see, Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I would question whether that fits from our,
Fair enough.
but just to give you some variety. Now, you will have to experiment. As I said, this works, and this works. Happy birthday to you. So they're both right. You just have to decide which one you like best. I wrote down some tips. Let me take a look at my notes. So the first tip is, if you want to get good at playing songs, what you do is you practice strums separately. Get yourself a little library of strums, at least, a handful of strums. Preferably, 3 strums in the 4/4 and or 4 pulses and a few strums in the 3 pulses. So I would certainly start with the regular down, down, up strum. That's 4. And maybe this is a very popular strum. You'd use this for a lot of songs. Down, down, up, down, up. Well, I'm running down the road trying to loosen my load. Typical Eagle song or pop rock type song.
Yeah.
For 3/4, I would definitely start with down, down, up, down, up, and then maybe down. Especially if you're dealing with country or folk style music. By the way, polka too.
There you go.
Let's see. It is a matter of preference, so don't get too hung up on looking for the perfect right strum. Find something that sounds good to you, and you can always listen to somebody else do the song and try their version of it as well.
Yeah.
Do keep in mind that it's better to start with something on the simpler side. Don't start with the more complex strum. You can always add to that strum later. Get the song down, then you can try different complex versions of the strum. Consider for slow songs, consider a finger picking pattern. So when the song's really slow, sometimes a regular strum, like let's say something like this. There's not enough action going on if you're just playing the guitar. Consider something like 1, 2, 3, 1. You see, it has a little more motion, and I think for slow songs that can somehow add some action to it. For a 4/4 version, that you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And those would be the simpler finger picking strums. You could also do one a little more complex. 2, 3, 4, and so on. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Na 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 na. Beatles tune. Obla di obla da. Okay, so are there any questions I can answer about that?
Let's ask the folks. Do you guys have any questions? Let's see.
Oh, if you're making up your own songs,
Oh, I do.
pretty much the process is similar. You do a lot of experimenting. And of course, you're the composer, so you get to decide what sounds right. Basically, when you write a song, you're the final decider of what's going to sound right.
Yeah.
So if you're playing a song, you decide if you want something a little slower. Again, the best thing you could do is practice and learn a variety of strumming patterns that you like, and then try them out with the song that you're working with. When I write a song, I'll try the same chord progression with 3 or 4 different strums, and I'm just looking for what really moves me. I'm looking for, yeah, that gives me the feeling that I'm after. There's no outside decision that this is the right strum. It's whatever feels good to me.
Yeah.
I will try sometimes. If I have a song that's 4/4, I'll try it in a 3/4 and see if I can squeeze that into a little different time signature. That's what we call 3/4, a different time signature.
Yeah.
And usually it doesn't work, but every now and then I go, oh yeah, this has potential.
Yes, and I think that, not to get too rhythmy theory-y, but like 6/8 and 4/4 have a lot of really good common grounds. 3/4 is kind of, it's like the same thing as 6/8 almost. It's a little different, but
She's talking about a pulse that is really 2 pulses, but divided into, each pulse is divided into 3. So we call it 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or here's a standard version of that.
yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. Hallelujah, yeah. Or, well, there's a lot of
So you can count it as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, or you can count it 1, 2, 3, 2. Sorry, 1, 2, 1. Most people will swing, they'll move like that in 2 pulses, because that's what it kind of evokes. Though intellectually you could divide into 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, but you don't go like this.
Right. We do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Actually, Shulamit, who sent us questions ahead of time, is here live and had another question.
Cool, great, welcome.
So they say, is it okay to mix strums in a song?
Oh, good question. It is, when you're listening to a song, it's very seldom that a professional artist will use the same strum throughout the entire song. And there's a couple of things that they're doing. One is they're using kind of subtle variations throughout the song. So it creates kind of a high and a low, or a little more action, a little less action.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it is specifically divided. You can hear a different strum in the verse and a different strum in the chorus.
Yep.
A chorus and a verse are sort of 2 parts of a song that are related, but usually different enough that you can tell one from the other.
Yeah.
A chorus is often the one when you're singing is you repeat the same words over and over, and the verse kind of varies.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of tells the story, and then the chorus comes back over and over. So that's the biggest place where you'll hear a different strumming or a different rhythm pattern altogether.
Right.
But even throughout the song, if you listen to an acoustic artist on acoustic guitar, they're not playing exactly the same strum throughout.
Yeah.
The other thing that they're doing is even within the same strum, like here's the same pattern, we'll say. So strum and pattern aren't quite always the same. This is the same pattern. Right? That's a simple pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the exact same pattern.
Right.
I am emphasizing the lows and the highs of string. It creates a different sound, even though it's the exact same pattern.
And you swung the eighth notes, which makes it a little different too.
I wasn't trying to.
No.
As opposed to...
Got it. Now I hear it.
What she's talking about is this shuffle or swing. I accidentally did a little more shuffle. So within a song, you want to create some texture. If that means a little changing up on the subtlety of the rhythm pattern, that helps. Or a different pattern, but still goes together in the chorus and the verse.
Yeah. They were also saying, excuse me, for example, is it okay to use finger picking pattern for the verse and strum for the chorus? I say yeah.
Yeah, though I would say just not as common.
Right.
But yes, and especially if you want that big of a difference between the chorus and the verse. As a composer, I would be listening, do I have a reason to make a very different texture? I would more often start out with I'll start out with a finger picking pattern. And then go and raise the song up into something a little more dramatic with chords.
Right.
For those of you who are out of the world of pop, that was Stairway to Heaven.
Yes.
And they did exactly that. They started kind of mellow with a finger picking pattern and moved into a hard rock. That was supposed to be electric guitar with a solo behind it.
Right.
So the song, the energy of the song rose from soft and mellow up into something very rock.
Yeah. I think a good example of that too is the song Hallelujah, the Leonard Cohen one. So when I performed that song with a couple students a few years ago, we did finger picking, but we were also singing, and I think that makes a big difference. So if you're singing the song, it's a different feel. So, we finger picking, I heard there was a secret word, blah, blah. And then once we got to the chorus, we started strumming.
Oh, okay.
And that added a little more texture, and I think it does make a difference if you're singing or not. If you're singing along with what you're doing, then you want to hear how your voice is interacting with the finger picking pattern and with your chords as well. And albeit it was a subtle strum. We weren't like, hallelujah.
Not quite like Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, we weren't like rocking it out to it, but we definitely added a strum to it. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, good question. We have somebody named U.S. Grant saying, 6 weeks playing, started on electric guitar. When I strum, I keep hitting the toggle switch. I guess my hand is going too far past the strings. Should I strum closer to the neck? And also, thanks. This is great that you're live.
No, thank you. I see Felix saying yes. I haven't. See, electric guitars are all different. So I've played electric guitar for years, but the toggle switch is not all in the same place. So I can't tell you without seeing your guitar and what you're doing exactly what you need to do. But what you've described is likely. You need to move your hand a little bit over to one side. And I would say, it might seem like a problem for you right now. A year from now, you'll forget you ever had that problem.
Right.
You just need to move your hand around a little bit and see what works and what doesn't.
Exactly. All right.
I do want to answer another question that Shalomit asked, how to make a song, add some life to a song. Now, he says he already knows how to do a mute technique, which is, a strumming technique where you'll, I've got my pick. Mute the strings to add some strumming to it, or a different kind of strum, like a bass note pattern or bass note run, we call that. One of the biggest things, we were talking about this earlier, Ami and I, and one of the biggest things that I hear with students and separates them from professionals is it's subtleties, really. And it's not the fancy things that they're doing. It's how they handle a basic strum.
Yeah.
One of those is what I described before. This is different than, even though it's the same pattern.
Yeah.
And the professional will not only add that, but use it at different times. And they'll go a little harder and softer so that there's breathing in the song. The song has a crescendo and then comes down a little bit and it goes up and it goes down.
Yeah.
Instead of everything like
Exactly.
The other thing is the actual timing. I hear a lot of students, or even semi-professional, I'll call them, they'll you can hear, but I'm faulting on the rhythm. I'm not solid. Even though it's not completely off, it feels like I'm not sure what the rhythm is, and even though the audience can't say that's what it is, you feel it. You're feeling confident that you're not really solid with the rhythm. Solid is.
There you go.
You know where that boom, boom, doo, doo,
Right.
bam, bam, bam. And that means even sometimes playing with the rhythm. When you're really confident, you can play off of that rhythm and come right back onto it. And so the audience feels this slight lift and then right solid back into the groove.
Yeah, I think that's very true. It's something I tell my students all the time too about find where you can add the variations. You never want a song to flatline. And I think that does make a huge difference in your playing. And I know Shulamit had asked, what are techniques you suggest to making it sound more professional and stuff? And that is a huge one for me. If I'm listening to somebody play, I can tell how much experience they have. I say, well, how do you make the song move? Is it breathing? Does it have a life of its own? Is there feeling? And that's the way you convey feeling, is through dynamics and the way that you're playing your notes and the strums that you're using, how you variate, how you create variations on them and things.
I think of a song a little bit like a story, kind of has an arc to it, a crescendo, and then comes down, and you might give it another little crescendo, and then come back down again.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. So another kind of question that Shulamit, while we're kind of going through the questions that they submitted, what strumming patterns would you recommend for what are generally slow and soft songs?
Well, I would start with a very basic strum and then see if you need a little more action. But for I'll say a fair amount of slow songs, I think a finger-picking pattern is the way to go. And again, decide whether it's 3/4 or 4/4, 4 pulses or 3 pulses, or possibly that 2 pulse, the 6/8, and then start with a very simple finger-picking pattern and see if you want to add to that. This is the most basic: 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I were doing 3, it would be 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I'd have to come back down unless I want. 3 doesn't divide into 2 bass notes very easily.
Right.
4/4 does. I'd put a bass note on the first beat and the third beat.
Exactly.
I would just start there and then see if that get the feeling of the song, and don't worry too much about how fancy the strum or intricate the strum is. Once you get the feeling, you can decide to add embellishments a little bit later.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's see.
And when I say the feeling, I'm not talking about just the basic strum, but also that kind of texture of the song. Where does it get a little harder, a little softer, a little more flowy, a little more staccato?
Yeah, I think texture is a good word to describe that, for sure. Shulamit also says, since the songs are originals, how should I go about adding a good sounding introduction and finish?
No, that's a good question. And as a composer, I've been doing it for years and years, and I've never thought of a process. I hear a song and it's kind of obvious to me what I should do for the beginning and end. And I'll try a few things, but maybe, do you have some ideas about that? She might be able to see it from a little more outside perspective.
Yeah, so I'm not a composer. I don't consider myself a composer in any way, except improvising. I think that it's easy to say that it's just kind of a feeling.
And that's kind of where my first...
Yeah, my instinct is to say it's a feeling, but here's basically what you're looking for is a resolution to your song. Unless you don't want a resolution. Some songs end like that too, where you want it to leave up in the air. But you'll notice with any kind of chord progression, your ear is naturally looking for a resolution, even when you think scales or anything musical.
So here would be a resolution.
Back to the root.
Back to home.
Yes. If you don't get back to home, if you will, then the song feels very unresolved. And it's a human thing. Your ear will be able to recognize that. So I would say whether you're coming up with a melody or chord progression or whatever it is, you want some sort of resolution so that you feel like, and this is where I say it's kind of a feeling, you feel like it's complete. I've completed the statement that I'm making. The phrase is over. You'll know when it's over.
So we're talking at the end of a song.
We're talking at the end of a song in terms of finishing it. And then, you can always add, there are I'm sure that you can look it up, and I don't know if you've ever done lessons, but these may be cool future lessons. Look up popular endings to songs. There are ways to just
I never thought
add
about
a couple
that.
Little, for example, in the blues, you do your progression, ding a ding a ding.
Oh, here's the ending.
Boom. There you go.
That's a standard ending, and I did a lesson on that.
Yeah, so there are standard
But that's
endings.
one of many.
Exactly, and there are many in pop and rock as well that you can just find that'll help you kind of close everything out. In terms of an intro, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I would say a lot when I do an intro to a song, and I don't always do intro to a song, but when I do an intro to the song, it's pretty much, I either steal a verse or a chorus or part of it and just start with that.
Yeah.
And sometimes just a little part, and I'll repeat it a couple times.
Right.
And I'm looking for something that's, I don't want to bore the audience, have to wait so long for the actual meat of the song, but something to just kind of make them anticipate where the melody comes in.
Right, exactly. That's kind of my thinking on that. We do have a few more live questions.
Okay, let me hear it.
So we have Dwight says, if you're a beginner guitar player and you want to put your thumb behind the neck of the guitar, probably what's the best way to do that?
Okay, first of all, I'll start with, you probably have seen this, but as a ukulele player, it's probably not such a big issue either. There's two camps, and one is the thumb behind the guitar, kind of like this. Can you guys see that? Can you see it? Yeah. Felix says yeah. And then one is the thumb up over the guitar like this. So I'll do that. I'm of the camp, the thumb goes behind. I was, along with being brought up at rock and roll, I also was classically trained, and my classical teacher would never let you get away with sticking your thumb up over there. But just to be clear, I don't consider one right or wrong, because you'll see a lot of great, especially folk and rock guitar players with a thumb like that. Who's going to say Eric Clapton is wrong or Bob Dylan is wrong, huh? I would say they're so used to that, or if I saw somebody playing like this for a long time, even though they came to me for some maybe more advanced coaching, I wouldn't try and change them. That would be not worth it. If it's working for them, now I would see how I could add to that. But if you're starting out from the brand new beginning, there are several advantages to playing with your thumb behind. And once you get, it seems harder in the beginning, I'll say that. But once you get used to it, it actually makes some things easier. One of them is, look when I do a bar chord. I can't do a bar chord with my thumb up here. I really have to switch around. So even people who play with their thumb up here have to switch around for a bar chord, and then they switch back. The other thing is, when I'm playing more intricate chords, I'll say, even I'm trying to think of one that's not a bar chord. Anyway, any chord that needs a little bit of stretching, I can't do it with my thumb there. I don't have the reach. I also find that I can more easily I have more pressure without straining my muscles this way. When I do this, I have to press harder and use more muscle. When I do it like this, there's like a fulcrum, and it takes very little pressure to make a good contact with the string. But I've been doing it this way for a while, and it seems natural and easy for me. I know in the beginning this is going to seem easier because you got more contact with your hand. You can hold onto the neck. So if you can patience it out, be a little more patient. That's how Pui would say it. If you can patient it. My wife's from Thailand. That's how she would talk. It's going to serve you to get your thumb back there. But if you're hell-bent on playing this way because your favorite artist plays that way, that's fine. Don't worry about it. Just deal with it. When you have to make a bar chord, you have to play it back.
What would you say? I know one thing for me, and I'm not a guitarist much at all, but one of the reasons that I quit guitar, true confession here, at 13 years old, was because it hurt my wrist, having to keep my thumb in the back. Keeping my wrist at that angle was like really uncomfortable. Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah. It's very subtle differences in the way you angle your hand. First of all, when you do that and it hurts your hands and you feel it pain, stop and shake it out and come back at it. Know that there's just very little adjustments that, let me put it this way, it never hurts my wrist, ever. So what I'm saying is not that I'm made different, it's that over time I found a little place where my wrist goes that I can hold it there I've played for 8 hours at a time and no pain in my wrist. Sometimes pain in my fingers, but no pain in my wrist. Sometimes pain in my shoulder because I'll tend to, or my neck because I'll start looking down like this after I get tired, but never pain in my wrist. One of the things that I correct beginners often is they're tensing up like this and pulling their hand back. I have them relax their elbow so the elbow is hanging almost to the point where if you take off your fingers, your hand would just fall. If you take off your fingers and your hand just stays there, that's a little too much tension. You should be able to just just on the edge of just your fingers, just that little bit of pressure holding your hand there. So that your hand is hanging straight down. And that gives you a natural arc there without pushing your hand up too much.
Oh.
Now, some people push their hand up because what's happening is they're trying to get a clearer sound without the finger touching the other strings. It's a balance. You don't want to pull your hand way back either. Kind of this hanging to where your hand hangs down like this. And it becomes a habit after a while and you don't even think about it. But in the beginning, put a little tension there and it will help.
Oh, there you have it. That's like with my uke students. They I have a lot of them when they're first starting off do this weird thing where their thumb is on the bottom.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yep. So they're sitting here like trying to play like this, and they're like strumming their chords, and it's really challenging for them. So I'm constantly getting their thumb in the back. And the other thing is that they end up here with their forearm hanging out.
That I
here.
could see because it looks like you can hold the neck better.
It looks like you can hold the neck better. So what I constantly do is I have them drop their shoulder, and then I have them relax their wrist and bring it forward. And then another one is that they end up like in a weird like position where they're like playing like this. So like one thing I'll do is, especially on uke, we change the angle of our hands a lot. So if you're playing like what would be, is this a D chord for you guys?
Yeah, it is.
So on ukulele, that's a G chord, right? So it's easier to come in from this angle as opposed to here. This is just like troublesome, right? So I'll have them change into this angle and then relax their elbow so that their wrist is still nice and straight and they're not getting this weird wonky thing.
That's a good point. Relaxing the elbow and wrist.
Yeah.
On the guitar, it's a little tricky because if you do too much of an angle here, you're going to likely touch the other strings.
Exactly.
Too. So it's a balance there.
Yeah. With 4 strings, it's a little easier.
By the way, to come back to the thumb behind the neck, I just want to show you where my thumb actually is. It's not way down here. It's a little bit, not quite in the middle either, a little higher than the middle. And it's not one place. I do have my first knuckle collapsed. It's not angled like this. The first knuckle is collapsed. Can you guys see that, Felix? Yeah. So see, I can't quite there. It looks better when I rip my hand, but back here, see, I have my first knuckle collapsed. It's hard to show you and turn the guitar.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Dwight says thanks, by the way.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Okay. We have...
I appreciate you asking about that.
Yeah. We have, I believe I pronounced it Cyball. I'm not sure. Apologies if it's incorrect. I have practiced D, second most popular fingerpicking pattern following your video. And also as shown with basic D, C sustain, and G. How can I get fingerstyle lessons step by step? And I found it interesting to play with. Oh,
well, interesting subjective. For me, just practicing like this is interesting, but that might not be for you. I will say in my Real Guitar Success program, there is step-by-step fingerpicking lessons, along with many other types of lessons. I would recommend it. There's a free trial for $1 and see if you find that interesting. When you sign up, make sure and send me an email and tell me who you are so I can make sure and direct you to what I think would be the best lessons for you, considering what you want to learn.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah. Every month, by the way, I actually make new fingerpicking lessons as well. I do 20 new lessons every month, and I create out of that several different fingerpicking lessons, along with a step-by-step course to kind of cover all the basics. So you'll find plenty of different things to work on. You're the one to have to decide if it's interesting to you.
Yes. Shulamit says, do you find that after playing guitar for a while that you develop a style that you kind of stay with and just add here or there, little changes?
Yeah, that's what's happened to me. I've, over the years, developed I used to copy a lot of other people. And little by little, I kind of took some things and kept others and let go of other things. I kind of manipulated some of the things that sound like somebody else until it sounded a little different. And some things probably still sound like somebody else, but all in all, it combined into my own style of playing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Somebody else says, I lose my pick a lot on strumming up. I bought some more grippy picks. Best advice for playing the up strum.
Oh, that's good. My pick used to always end up in the hole of the guitar.
Oh, that's the worst place for it to end up.
Trying to get it out.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so you're not alone. It is a common thing, first of all. And the best tip I can tell you, it's a combination of grabbing the pick solid enough Yes, first of all, it does help to have a little rough part on the pick. I would recommend that, but you've already done that. Put the pick on your first knuckle, your thumb over it, point your finger out a little bit, and now you want the pick to wobble just a little bit, but enough pressure on the back of the pick so that it doesn't come out easily. Now, when I come up, here's the other part of that. I go down, and notice I'm pointing just a little bit in. On the way up, I turn my hand a little bit on the way up. Then down, I turn the other way. Now that's exaggerated. You see when I'm strumming fast, I'm moving this arm a little bit and I'm moving the wrist a little bit. It gets to be a habit. See, at first you have to think about it, but over time, you don't. Now I can say that my pick's solid. I feel it's not moving. But I'm also, by the way, not digging in. That would be the final part of this.
Yeah.
And that's what I used to do. I used to dig in, and that would create so much pressure, it would pull the pick out of my hand.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of those three things. Angling the pick, getting the right grip, number one, angling the pick up and down, and then brushing on the edge of the strings, not digging into the strings.
And Shulami added to the conversation saying solve the problem by using a thumb pick.
Oh, that's something I can't say I've tried. Cool.
Slip it on a deal, yeah.
Yeah, I have tried thumb pick. I didn't like it, but I see, what's that guy, Tony Emanuel? Oh, man, he can really use that thumb pick. So I know you can do some wonderful things with that thumb pick.
Yeah, very cool.
Oh, Chet Atkins, too. I've seen him use a thumb pick.
Cool.
He signed the palm of my hand before he died. Chet Atkins.
Did you?
I know I should have did paper, but
Yeah.
I was young and dumb.
I'll take it. You should have just never washed the hand
I
again.
thought about that, but it didn't last long.
Did you at least take a picture of your hand?
No, I didn't have an iPhone back then. That was a long time ago.
Oh, Felix says should have made it into a tattoo.
Yeah.
Yeah, even better.
I was young.
Okay. Paul says, I'm finally having continued success playing fifth string bar chords.
Oh, good.
Sixth
That's a
string-
big one.
Sixth string is also much better. I play electric and I find that I'm pushing too hard on frets.
Yeah, that's a
Makes a
thing.
difference.
And that'll make your hand tired.
Mm-hmm.
I teach students this exercise, which I recommend to you, but I think it has many applications. Play your bar chords, and it's not just for bar chords, also for solo, individual notes is what I'm trying to say. Play and then lighten up and keep strumming and see how light you can go and it still sounds okay. Then take your hand off and try that again. And over time, try to get to where you can press just hard enough to make a good sound. And that takes continuous practice. I would say probably months of practice, but just do it a little at a time so it's not overly frustrating.
Definitely. Good. Well, I think those are all the questions for now. I just sent out the last shout out for any other questions so we can do the raffle while we wait for folks to respond.
The raffle.
Oh, wait, not yet.
One more question.
Paul says he has a kind of follow-up question.
Please.
Strumming chords like D7, do you worry much about hitting the open strings?
Well, on the D7, I don't, depends on your level. Now, in the beginning stages, I would say no, don't worry about that. Because there's other things that are more important. Over time, you want to kind of distinguish what open string is a part of the chord and what's not.
Yeah.
In the case of D7, the fourth string open is a part of the chord, and it's actually the root, or also people say the bass note of the chord, because it's a D note. But the fifth string can also be a part of that chord. It's what we would call the fifth of the chord, and could also be like an alternate bass note. That E is not a part of the chord, so I would avoid that. And I would avoid it by kind of angling my hand a little bit and strumming more on the high end of the strings than straight, flat, up and down.
Gotcha.
Now when you're dealing with a G, that's a very different issue. You see, there's a, let me do a two-finger G, because there's technically an open fifth string. And so I'm using this as an example for chords that have open strings in the middle. I don't want that open fifth string. The A note, which is the open fifth string, is not a part of the chord.
Yeah.
So I angle my finger down slightly to touch it, so even if I hit it, it doesn't sound.
Oh, you're muting it.
Watch, I'm going to unmute it. Nah, not good. Felix said, There. It's easy for me to mute that string because the angle of my hand. There's some that you have to work a little harder for.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, here's a good example. I'm muting several strings here. I'm muting the first string and the sixth string. I'm touching it with my third finger and my first finger. You because the 6th and 5th aren't a part of the chord.
Right. Interesting. See, this is where like 4-string instruments, we don't have to trip on stuff like that. It's pretty awesome. Yeah. All right, let's do the raffle.
Raffle time.
Let's see who's going to get a prize.
You're all winners, by the way. If you completed the practice session, you are a winner. The practice session is my way of giving you, in 5 different areas of guitar playing, something every week to practice. So actually, you're going to hit it each area 4 times in a month.
Yeah. All right. This month's winner is S. Dims.
It's Dims. I think that's Sharon, but I'll double check.
Okay.
I'll double check. Well, make sure I'll find the email with the name. Congratulations. And again, congratulations to all of you. Good work. We've completed. So we're going to send Sharon a $50 Amazon gift card. And next month, whoever's finished the practice sessions will also get a chance to win the $50 gift card. By the way, there is a special right now, which I guess I should say is probably not going to last much longer, but $1 for 2 weeks of real guitar success. Mm-hmm. So if you just want to learn something like some basic strumming, there's a course in there called Strumming Mastery. Just sign up for $1 and get through that course. I think you'll find a lot of other stuff that you really enjoy and realize it's well worth the money to continue being a subscriber. But that's totally up to you.
And I will actually throw the link to RGS in the chat right now.
Okay, cool.
Oh, and actually, Shulamit is the one that won the raffle.
Oh, that's you! Congratulations! And you're on there live. Great.
Very exciting.
Thank you. Thanks for telling us.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a mystery now.
Yeah. Oh, and so I just threw the link for RGS in the chat, so feel free to check it out. You guys can see that. And we did have one other question before we close
no
up.
Problem.
Somnath, I think that's how I would say your name, says how to strum and play with more dynamics. That's a great question.
Yeah, and I think an important one, especially once you get past that early beginner stage where you got a handful of strums. You want to start experimenting with softer, louder, hitting on the lower strings. That's the first thing I would try. Make your strums, try alternating between lower strings and high strings. That's the first thing I would try. And I would start with like the simpler strums and do that. So for an example, this is one, once a student gets his basic down-up strum, I'd have them practice that kind of strum doing a low, high, low, high. And then experiment that. Try 2 lows. And so on. In a song, you might vary it up a little bit, not do the one dynamic throughout the whole song. Mm-hmm. Then also, try some basic chord patterns. Try going louder and softer. Now, I'm exaggerating, and that's what you got to do to kind of start getting control of that. Then when you are learning a song or even a more complex exercise, you can back it up a little bit to what sounds better, sounds more interesting. You want to gain control over your ability to play louder and softer. Also, when you're playing a song, you might change up some things like...
Exactly.
I added a few different styles within that one little passage.
Sounds
Again,
good.
exaggerated. I probably wouldn't do something in that short of a space of time. I was exaggerating.
Very cool.
Hope that helps.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all the questions we have for now. And we were saying Shulamit's name correct, just Stephanie.
Oh, good.
I was wondering. I just asked.
We were debating that earlier today, but Ami got it. I'll give her credit for that. So I guess it's time to go away. It's been a pleasure having you all here. Ami, thank you.
Yeah, thanks
Felix,
for having me.
thank you.
Welcome.
We'll be back next month. And Felix is going to dance and sing. No, just
Yeah,
kidding.
month of May. Felix. Well, actually,
Month of May, the
we'll have a
first
guest, right?
Tuesday, we'll have a special guest.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun.
That is.
First Tuesday, same time, but different month,
Yep, May 7th.
May 7th.
We'll see you guys
Okay.
then.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.
Take care. Store up all your questions.